Thank you for your interest in Advanced Healthcare Directives in Arizona. I'm Emily Taylor, an attorney licensed in the state of Arizona. My practice focuses on estate planning and special needs planning throughout the state. Please note that the information provided in this video is for general information purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. With that, let's get started. What are Advanced Healthcare Directives? Advanced Healthcare Directives are legal documents that allow you to outline your wishes for medical treatment if you become unable to communicate them. In Arizona, these are very important. They assure that your wishes will be respected and that the need for court intervention is greatly reduced. These health directives are important to provide clarity, such that your loved ones and healthcare providers are not in a position having to try to understand what your wishes would have been if you're unable to communicate them. They can greatly reduce stress during critical times. This could be during a time of a medical emergency, in the middle of a procedure, or in the event you have a stage of dementia or other cognitive decline. They also allow that your medical care aligns with your values and desires. They avoid or help to avoid guardianship or other court intervention, and they empower you to name the individuals you trust to advocate for your needs. In Arizona, there are 5 primary groups of documents that constitute advanced healthcare directives. First and foremost, we've got a healthcare power of attorney. In Arizona, we also have a mental health care power of attorney, a living will, pre-hospital medical care directives, often known as DNRs or POST forms, as well as authorization for release of records. Healthcare powers of attorney are a document that allow us to designate trusted person or persons to make healthcare decisions on your behalf if you're unable to make or communicate your decisions. This individual, often known as an agent, sometimes known as a proxy, will advocate for your medical preferences, make decisions about treatments you receive, decide where you should be admitted, and also consider many other healthcare pieces that come up if you're unable to make or communicate those decisions. In Arizona, our healthcare power of attorney also allows us to provide instructions as it relates to some of our personal wishes immediately after death. This includes the ability to decide whether you are an organ donor, whether that organ donation is for purposes of research or just transplant. It also allows you to decide whether or not you authorize a voluntary or elective autopsy. And finally, it allows you to place your wishes related to the disposition of your remains. Most commonly, we think of this as burial or cremation, although there is always new science coming into our ability to add choices such as human composting, aquazation, all sorts of other things. In Arizona, we have a mental health care power of attorney. This mental health care power of attorney is usually quite unique. We don't see this in a lot of states. However, in Arizona, it's really important that you have a specific medical directive that allows you to name and again appoint someone to make decisions about your mental health care treatments if you're unable to make those decisions yourself. This is particularly important if you have specific preferences for treatment. In other words, perhaps you have certain medications or treatments that have or have not worked in the past, or if there are things you want to make sure are avoided. And it also allows for admission to inpatient psychiatric hospitalization. In Arizona, we have very specific rules regarding admission to inpatient hospitalization. And so we need to be clear whether or not we've granted our agents this authority to make these decisions on our behalf. Again, the implementation and preparation of this document allows us to hopefully avoid court intervention and the need for an emergency mental health guardianship. This again can save a lot of stress during a very difficult or stressful time. Some individuals who perhaps have not struggled with mental health believe that this may not be necessary. However, unfortunately, we have in Arizona geriatric psychiatric treatment centers, and this sometimes can come up for an individual who has not had any mental health concerns in the past. Perhaps they are showing psychiatric symptoms related to a stage of Alzheimer's or dementia. I believe it's important for everyone to consider completing a mental health care power of attorney when looking at their advanced healthcare directives. Next, we have a document known as a living will. This differs greatly from a last will, which is the document that allows us to direct who administers our estate and the beneficiaries of our estate. A living will instead outlines our wishes for end-of-life care. It specifies what type of life-sustaining treatments you do or do not want if you're terminally ill, in a coma, or otherwise incapacitated. These are uniquely personal decisions, and a lot of times are governed by experiences you've had caring for others or making decisions for others, as well as your own healthcare treatment. These documents are also likely to change throughout your life, but they're very, very important to consider and complete. A good living will allow you to make decisions related to life prolonging procedures, the implementation of artificial food and water, decisions related to a situation where perhaps you have an advanced stage of Alzheimer's or dementia, and will also give direction as it relates to hospice and palliative care when the time is appropriate. A living will is really important to have in place as it allows your healthcare power of attorney, your agent, or your proxy to have direction about what are your wishes and beliefs. Finally, we have pre-hospital medical care directives. These in Arizona are usually one of two different forms, or both. The first is a DNR, a do not resuscitate order. This is a medical directive that instructs our healthcare providers not to perform CPR if your heart stops or if you stop breathing. It's a very specific type of health advanced directive that applies to situations where resuscitation might be considered. In Arizona, this DNR form is on neon orange paper and commonly is encouraged to be placed somewhere where firefighters, ambulance, or other medical directives might be needed to be seen immediately in case of emergency. A POLST is a different type of pre-hospital medical care directive. A POLST is a physician orders for life-sustaining treatment. This form in Arizona is on pink paper, and it again outlines your preferences for a range of life-sustaining treatments, including resuscitation, intubation, and other interventions based on discussion with your doctors. In Arizona, both of these forms must be signed by your physician. In order to do so, they commonly consult with you to understand and to make sure you understand the nature of what you're authorizing and not authorizing and how they can be implemented. Finally, throughout all of these documents, we want to make sure there is good HIPAA and authorization for release of records. It's imperative that the people you name in your healthcare power of attorney and mental health care power of attorney have the ability to analyze your medical records, speak with your healthcare providers, and understand the nature of what's going on. Sometimes you will sign a standalone authorization for release of records. A lot of times you sign HIPAA waivers at each hospital or doctor's office. Your next steps, if I were you, is to do a couple different things. One, review your existing directives. Perhaps upon admission to a hospital, you signed a living will or a healthcare power of attorney. Perhaps many years ago, you have put these documents in place, or even more recently, you've completed the documents and you want to make sure you understand what directives you put in place and that it's a good expression of your wishes. A lot of times these forms need to be implemented or updated. You want to obtain updated forms. In Arizona, our Attorney General offers a planning packet for free. It's available for download on their website, and you can find it by Googling the Arizona Attorney General Life Planning Packet. We also encourage you to consult with legal and medical professionals. Of course, I think an attorney in consultation with your medical team can help you put even better documents into place that allow and make sure you've got a sustained plan, that not only do you have nominated agents and proxies, but that you've got backup plans in the event they're unable to make those decisions for you. We also want to make sure that all of these documents are signed with appropriate witness and notary requirements. State requirements vary. In Arizona, you need either a disinterested witness or a notary. However, it may not be a bad idea to have both in case you're needing to implement a healthcare directive in a state that requires both. Lastly, I encourage you to share these directives. One of the ways you can do that is by registering your healthcare directives with the Arizona Health Directive Registry. This is available for free. I also encourage you to share your healthcare directives with the team that you're nominating in your documents, so your healthcare providers, as well as your named agents or proxies. I think it's important to discuss some of these items because a lot of times we want to make sure they really understand what you intended to communicate by putting these pieces in place. Lastly, if you're interested, please feel free to reach out and contact us. If you're in the state of Arizona, we'd be happy to meet with you to discuss your healthcare directives as well as all of your other estate planning needs. Thank you for taking the time to watch this short video. I encourage you to like and subscribe if you're interested in learning more about your personal plan.